Hello, you are most welcome. I'm teacher Ivan from Wuna Educational Services. I welcome you to our next lesson where we are still looking at the Senior 1 Physics calculations, and we are still on the chapter of measurements. In our previous lesson, we looked at how we convert units of length, and in today's lesson, we shall be looking at how we convert units of area. So for those who missed the previous lesson, go to our playlists or you go to our videos. You scroll down, you will see our first lesson. Actually, for now, it is on top, so that you learn through the first lesson, and now you catch up with us to move together in the next lessons. However, to avoid missing lessons, do two things. First of all, subscribe. After subscribing, hit the bell so that you get notified whenever we have a new lesson, so that we move together, learn together, and achieve together. Otherwise, let us go to our today's lesson where we are looking at conversion of units of area. Before we look at how we convert units of area, we shall start with driving it deep into what area is. Area is simply defined as a two-dimensional space occupied by an object. For instance, if I consider a box, if I put a box on the table, there are two dimensions of the box that are in contact with the table. That is its length and width. The other height, the dimension of height, is not in contact with the table. So that space that is in contact with the table, the two-dimensional space of length and width, is what we call area. Hope now we know what area is. To move on, there are two types of area. We have the cross-sectional area, which is normally considered for the two-dimensional figures like a triangle, rectangle, square. Those are two-dimensional figures. So the area we get for a triangle, a square, a rectangle is the cross-sectional area. Then we have the surface area. Surface area is normally obtained considering the three-dimensional shapes. For instance, a tube. From a tube, we can get the surface area. Actually, we normally get total surface area because we get the areas of all the surfaces or the faces of the tube and add them. A cuboid, and so on. So, those are the two categories of area. Area is measured in square meters as the SI unit of area. However, besides square meters, we also have other units of area, which include kilometers squared or square kilometers, square hectometers, square decameters, square decimeters, square centimeters, square millimeters, among other units. So we shall be looking at how we convert from one unit of area to another. However, we shall also put into consideration our formula of how we convert from one unit to another. That is, King held, your daughter Mary drank cold milk. So this kind of formula helps us to know the equivalence of one unit in terms of the other. For instance, if I look at the relationship between decameter and meter, it shows me that 1 decameter is equivalent to 10 meters. Similarly, 1 decameter is equivalent to 100 decimeters. 1 decameter is equivalent to 1,000 centimeters. So, from that, we now come to how we get area. Remember, for area, we square. So, if 1 kilometer is equivalent to 1,000 meters, then what about 1 kilometer squared? We shall square both sides. Squaring is the same as multiplying twice. So I'll get 1 kilometer times 1 kilometer to give me 1 kilometer squared. How do we get 1 kilometer squared? 1 multiplies 1 to give us 1. Kilometer multiplies kilometer to give us kilometer squared. On the other hand, of the 1,000 meters, we do the same. Since we are squaring, we shall multiply 1,000 meters twice. So that 1,000 multiplies to 1,000 to give us 1,000,000. And meter multiplies meter to give us meter squared. So therefore, we shall conclude by saying that 1 kilometer squared is equivalent to 1,000,000 meters squared. Then, from 1 meter equaling to 100 centimeters, that means that 1 meter squared will equal to 100 centimeters times 100 centimeters, which will give us 100 centimeters squared. So 1 meter squared is equivalent to 10,000 centimeters squared. And therefore, we can convert from one square unit to another square unit. But besides we look at examples, let us continue. We also look at how we square both sides for the centimeter and millimeters. 1 centimeter is equivalent to 10 millimeters. And therefore, if we square both sides, we shall end up with 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter, which gives us 1 centimeter squared. Because 1 and 1 gives us 1 square, centimeter times centimeter times centimeter will give us centimeter squared. Similarly, we shall multiply 10 millimeters times 10 millimeters, where 10 and 10 gives us 100, millimeter and millimeter gives us millimeter squared. However, from 1 kilometer squared equaling to 1,000,000 meters squared, then if we divide through by 1,000,000, we shall end up with 1 meter squared equaling to 1 over 1,000,000 kilometers squared. And therefore, if we are converting from 1 meter squared to 1 kilometer squared, we shall divide. Remember, this one is smaller than this, that's why we are dividing. And still, from 1 meter squared being equivalent to 10,000 centimeters squared, if we divide by 10,000 on both sides, we shall end up with 1 over 10,000 meters squared being equivalent to 1 centimeter squared. And therefore, we shall conclude that 1 centimeter squared is equivalent to 1 over 10,000 meters squared. Still, don't forget that we are changing from a smaller unit to a bigger unit, and that's why we are dividing. Lastly, we have 1 centimeter squared equaling to 100 millimeter squared. And therefore, if we are to change from millimeter squared to centimeter squared, we shall divide by 100 on both sides. So by 100, we get 1. By 100, we get 1 over 100. And therefore, we shall have 1 millimeter squared being equivalent to 1 over 100 centimeters squared. So, now let us look at the examples. Examples, we are told to convert each of the following as instructed. Part A, we have 10 kilometers squared to decameters squared. So, 1 kilometer is equivalent to 100 decameters. So, if 1 kilometer equals to 100 decameters, what about 1 kilometer squared? We shall square both sides. So we get 1 kilometer squared being equivalent to 10,000 decameters squared. How did we get 10,000? Because we multiplied 100 twice to give us 10,000. And therefore, remember we are converting 15 kilometers squared to decameters squared. And therefore, 15 kilometers squared will be equivalent to 15 times 10,000 decameters squared. Hence giving us 15 kilometers squared equal